we have been collecting questions both on the Paradox Plaza forums and on the social medias. From user Raheg.
Yeah.
What role will space play in the game and the settings? Because we've been on a planet for most of this.
Yes.
And we're going to keep being on planets, correct?
Yes, yes. It's a terrestrial-based game. One session is one planet, but of course, in the campaign, you'll be, going through space, visiting multiple planets. Each world is different. It might have different factions, different biomes, different size.
That's maybe that's something we can talk about quickly then. Like, what's the campaign going to look like? Because you say like we're going from planet to planet. So is that starting out on a smaller planet and then going to different planets with different challenges? How without spoilers, of course. What's that going to look like?
Well, you basically start the campaign at the moment that hyperspace travel is possible again. That allows you to pick one of the 3 starting factions, and you play the story from their perspective. Yeah. Of course, the Vanguard have a very different perspective than the Dwar or the Kirko. Yeah. And it's a little bit of an origin story for most of the factions, and it basically builds up to discovering what happened to the Star Union, and you'll be visiting multiple planets towards the center of the Star Union.
We have some sneaky questions here that are like lore-based, like story reason why factions can't just bomb each other's ground forces to pieces from orbit. And as we saw from the Vanguard, they can, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be a balance. Just as Magic was in Age of Wonders 3, it's always going to be support. It's going to be air support. But the actual boots on the ground is what's going to win the war.
From user Sean-Luc, any changes, and I'm assuming by that they mean changes from Age of Wonders 3 to stealth mechanics like invisibility and concealment. We did see some concealment from the Kirko snipers, for example.
That's pretty similar as Age of Wonders 3. The difference is, of course, the new scanner range. Yeah. And the scanner range is something that you can manipulate. You can extend it. But you can also obscure sectors or units from the scanner.
From Devil Dog, are we in alpha, pre-alpha, or beta? Which I just want to preface by saying, based on my experience working on a bunch of different games here at Paradox, that can mean anything. But
we like to call it alpha. What it means to you.
So what does alpha mean to you? What's the current state of the game? Kind of, because I know that you're still working on a lot of things. Reorganize some interfaces. We saw the Quest interface, for example.
Yeah, there's stuff like that. Basically, most of the core features are in. The game is playable. The various layers of the game are playable. Most of the factions are in. It just means lots of polish.
From Solidaria Gaming on the forum wants to know what level of destruction can you wreak upon the world? And I think we saw some destruction in the tactical combat. Is there anything like that on the world map?
There's some terraforming. Like we foreshadowed that a particular faction can, for example, remove mountains. And you could lay in. You saw the hazards on the map, the nuclear fallout, which leaves like large economic debuffs to the zones that they're operated in. But you can also cause these hazards yourself as a player. I mean, there might be a bunch of them at the start of the game, but end game you can create them yourself. And then there's of course the Doomsday weapons, which, like in the case of the Promethean, are able to waste the entire planet. And
will there be any connections or references to the classic Age of Wonders series?
There might be.
You can't answer that.
What I just want to say here is that the game plays in the different universe. But the metaverse is a pretty big place.
That's true. What are you most proud of when it comes to like new features, ideas for characters, pieces of writing so far? Because I'm sure there are a lot of things that you and the team are proud of, but are there like any special things, of course, other than Jack Elder's mustache and glasses?
All right. Where to begin? I mean, the team has done, I think, a great way to take the Age of Wonders sort of core premise and take it to this new sci-fi world. There's the great new richness in tactical combat mechanics. Just the ranged gameplay opens up an entire realm of possibilities. I think on the world map we're doing very interesting things with the way colonies are being built. It's really it's both familiar and more innovative as a direct sequel could be. So I think that's why it's cool to do Planetfall in a new setting. It allows us also to experiment with a couple of more features. And
I guess I do want to add to this, because one of the things that this is a very pretty game.
Oh, thank you.
Especially
we got some great artists. We got some great artists.
You do. I get to work with them, and it's always a pleasure. But whenever I see screenshots and keep coming back to them, like that's very pretty, and like.
Yeah, it's a new engine, by the way, as well. It's not just the artists; it's also the programmers. It's now a 64-bit engine. We use a new render technique called PBR, which you see in like lots of modern shooters as well. But we applied it to the strategy game. A whole new production pipeline. So yeah, the game is looking better than Age of Wonders 3 for sure.
Oh, what is the verdict on player-created mods? Are you guys supporting mods, or is it something as in with extra assets, or is it more like I know that HBS does for BattleTech, where it's not necessarily supported, but they love every freaking mod that's ever made for the game?
Yeah. At a minimum level, we have the same amount of modding as an Age of Wonders 3, and I can't promise it, but we're pushing towards opening up the modding from day one after release.
Okay. So I think the important part there was not promising anything, because I don't want anyone to go from this and be like, yes, they said yes. How would you describe the multiplayer for Planetfall? How does it work? As in, because this is a turn-based game, right?
Yep.
So one might assume that okay, you take a turn, I take a turn. How does it work?
Yeah, in the previous games you always had opportunities to play multiple ways, either via sessions head-to-head, at least on PC, and via a sort of play-by-email system. And we're looking into enhancing multiplayer for this new game. One of the first enhancements that we've made is made the multiplayer more stable in terms of connection. Some people had like connection issues depending on their ISP. Second thing is we've upped the number of players to 12.
Okay.
There are more ways to interact in combat when a player is in combat during multiplayer, but we'll delve into multiplayer sessions later.
I think someone with eagle-eyed at the end of the gameplay presentation noticed that Jack actually leveled up. How does unit and hero leveling work in Planetfall?
In a similar way that it's an open-ended sort of skill-based mechanic. So you have skills coming from your base faction. You got a couple coming from your secret technology, and you can specialize your hero or commander in a particular way. So you could say, I'm gonna go for vehicles, and I want to be a vehicle commander, piloting a vehicle myself, and buffing other vehicles in my group. Or you could become like a ranged specialist, a sniper, and picking the individual skills that befit that path. But it's not like a linear path. You can mix and match upgrades as you see fit.
And is it just the heroes and the commanders, or do the units also level up?
The units also level up with experience, but that's a linear path. So they get basic increase in as in Age of Wonders 3. Of course, we've got the mod system now, which allows you to change the functionality of the unit, but their hit points and whatnot.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily want a unit to get wiped out.
Absolutely not.
Because you're going to lose your experience.
Yeah. You want fully modded elite veterans in your battles.
So we have a question here about random scenario generation, which we were playing on essentially a random map that had been tweaked a bit because we wanted
it was a random map that had been saved out. And it had the AI placed quite close to the start position. But the random map has been massively enhanced. Like there's now the entire procedure to generate all these little sector stories. Even the campaign has an element of procedural generation. So when you replay a campaign, it actually has all the quests and all the storylines that you know from Age of Wonders campaigns. But the maps themselves are procedural components.
I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Oh dear.
You prepared? Favorite faction?
Ha ha ha. No, that would be like a journalist saying his a political party.
That's a fair point. Okay, so let me obfuscate the question a bit then, because I'm entirely open that my favorite faction, at least story-wise, because I haven't actually played with them yet, because I've been messing around with Vanguard, is the Kirko.
Yeah,
I really like their backstory.
They're underdogs. Yeah, that's sort of what we want to do. Where there is create sort of an origin story for like all the insectoid monsters, like the Zerg and the Tyranids, and that's sort of like how did they get to be so bad? I mean, they were nice people. They just got abused when they, you know.
Yeah, and so without mentioning any names, would you say that there is at Triumph? Would you say that there's an even distribution among the different factions that people like? Like, is there like, yes, those three like the Kirko?
Yeah, there's quite some heated discussion. I mean, some people, for example, really the Amazons are the favorite factions. Other people, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need factions to kill as well. You know.
So that's a fair point. Oh, that's actually Picrazzo wants to know if you can colonize the water regions, and I think we've seen some hints on tech that lets us do that. So. Once you get that tech, do the water regions essentially act as any other region, or are they still like non-traversable by certain units? If you understand my meaning.
Yeah, you can. You first need to develop the aquatic deployments, which means that you can embark units. Then you can build water bases, and then you can develop those water bases further. Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
And Goldblum wants to know if colonies grow visually, and I think we've actually seen that for our main colony here.
Yeah.
It wasn't this pretty when we started.
Yeah. It will grow further. It will create more sprawl, and even these sector bases, they will, at one point, basically create sprawl that covers the entire sector.
Fendraelis wants to know how the doctrine system works, and we did show them off a bit in the research.
Yep.
But potentially, because I'm pretty sure Fendraelis has played Age of Wonders 3, because they say it seems to replace potentially both Empire upgrades and global enchantments. We know that there are limited slots. We know that you have more choices than slots, especially with owning landmarks, but we don't know about the cost for implementation or activating or deactivating them, let alone their effects. So lots to digest in that question. I'm not sure how answerable it is.
I think we already disclosed most of it. Like there can only be so many doctrines active at once. And yes, they do take the place of Empire upgrades. They sit somewhere in between a global spell and a doctrine. And we'll be showing them in a later video. Are there polluted wasteland sectors? Yes.
Yeah, they're right. And those sectors, because the one that we showed with the leisure area, my understanding is like those have you actually, if you clear out those nuclear, you can clear those nuclear fallout sectors, right? And they'll produce for you. Or
but there's also a different wasteland type of biome, which is
because I guess that's actually a fair point to talk about.
Mordor in space.
Yeah, we haven't shown all of the different biome types here because we do want to keep a few things secret and reveal them later, because we want you guys to come back for more, because we're meme like that. But you told me, for example, I asked you about the tactical combat maps, and there are a lot of different ones.
Yeah, each little structure has its own map. So yeah, there's lots of structures, but there's also lots of biomes.
Which I guess means that once you do get into a tactical combat, you might not necessarily know the layout of the land, even though, of course, you know you know what enemy you're up against. You kind of know what their units look like, but you don't necessarily know. Okay, am I going to be put in a place where I have a massive tactical advantage because of my setup, or am I going to be like on the other side of all of the cover?
Yeah.
McLovig123 wants to know if there are other heroes aside from your leader.
Yes. Yeah, they will start popping up. I'm now at turn 7. So they will start recruiting, and then usually between turn 5 and 10, I think of turn 10, you will guarantee to have your first additional hero.
But as you told me, they don't necessarily have the same type of perks like the commander does that can affect the whole
Empire. Yeah, they don't have the Empire perks that you choose at the beginning of the game, or at least that's how it is now. We might want to do something with that. That they give something else beyond the combatability of your units, but that's not decided yet.
Yeah, have we missed anything that we should mention?
Well, most of the game, but this is the first step of a reveal.
And I think, of course, if you want more information about Age of Wonders Planetfall, there is a link to below us where you can sign up to our newsletter, get more information, and also unlock a bunch of cool items for the game when it comes out. You can also, of course, wishlist the game on Steam, and you'll get a reminder when it's out. And last but not least, and I think this is actually quite important, on the Paradox Plaza forums, you guys post dev diaries.
Yep.
What days normally?
Usually on Thursdays in the afternoon. And generally weekly.
Yes.
Except for like weeks when something like this happens.
There should be more things coming up, so keep your eyes peeled. And once again, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching and joining the conversation.
Goodbye. Thanks.